Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. In today's Brother Scan and Cut Tips and Tricks tutorial, we will go back to basics. I'm going to be showing you how to create a circular window inside of card layer. This technique can be used for so many applications. I will be sharing my way to goat, that's exactly what I said, cards that I created with the goat sticking out the window. I'm not going to show you those till the end. They crack me up, and I'm even cracking up as I say it. I'm going to show you how to work with the built-in shapes and patterns to create a circle inside of a rectangle. That way the goat can stick out of the window. In this video, you'll learn about working with the built-in shapes as far as resizing them and grouping them. And you'll learn how to change the cutting area. Because right now I'm using a 12 by 12 mat, but my piece of cardstock that I'm going to be cutting in this tutorial, which is just this piece of cardstock, is only 8.5 by 11. So I'll show you how to change the cutting area. And then we're also going to learn about the auto layout feature. Okay, for some of you, some of these techniques may be a review, but I'd like to always teach you different ways to use your Scan and Cut for your crafting needs. A shout out to my sister Cindy, who let me borrow her machine while I'm traveling so I could keep on doing my Scan and Cut tutorials. This is a CM350 or Scan and Cut 2, but follow along with whichever model of Scan and Cut you have. So you're going to turn on your machine, you're going to see Pattern and Scan. We're going to go to Pattern. We're going to be working with the shapes, so let's go ahead and put the rectangular card base onto the mat. So we're going to create a rectangle. You could select a rectangular shape down here, but instead I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to select a square and change it into a rectangle. The way you change a square into a rectangle is by unchecking this, or selecting this, I should say, not unchecking, there's no check. Just select this, and that means that you can change the width and the height independently. Okay, so I'm gonna have a 4-inch height. Now this is going to be not the card itself, this is the first layer of my card. Okay, so I wanna have, this is going to be the card, this is the size I always use, let's put it that way. For pretty much every layer of my card. Because the card itself, let me go ahead and do that. The card itself is going to be like 4.25 inches by 5.5. I always make my first layer of my card a 1/4 inch smaller. Okay, and you're gonna get to see this as I show you the visual example. So, although I need 4 of these, I'm not done yet. I need to put the circle. So I do have an example in a different color. So this is what I'm gonna be doing later with the whale of a time. So we're doing something like this. We're putting a circle. We're going to be cutting a circle out of this shape. Okay, and there's so many applications of this. But I'm going to be doing in this tutorial just the petal pink, but that was a couple other colors. Okay, so what I need to do is make that circle to put inside this rectangle. So let's put the rectangle on the mat. Now we're going to go ahead and add a circle. So click on Add and go back to those shapes. These are the built-in shapes. So we're going to click on that one. Scroll down, and here's the circle shape, BA-A046. So I'm on page 3 of 10. You may be in a different place on your machine. Every single Scan and Cut since the beginning of time that they started making them has a circle. This time, don't check this box. We want the circle to stay in proportion. We want the height and width to stay. We don't want an oval, we want a circle. So I thought this would be great to come on and show you because not all my crafty friends have punches of all the sizes like I do. And not only that, I have punches, but I still did this technique. I like my cards to be exact. I always use the Scan and Cut to make my card layers. And even though I have dies and punches, you can't get the circle to be in the same spot every time. And even if you had a punch, maybe the punch doesn't go in so far. In this case, it does. But maybe you want the circle to be in the middle of your card for a shaker card. So in other words, punches are limited. They're fixed size and they can only go in so far. And then if you have a die, again, you'd have to line them up every time in the exact spot and it would be inconsistent. So this is a great technique for a great reason to use your Scan and Cut, I should say. So the circle I want is 1.5 inches wide. Now, even though I need 4 of these later, we're not going to make these now. We're just going to set 1 on the mat because I need these 2 objects to be grouped together. And then I'll duplicate it. So let's put this over here just so you can see. I'm going to put it, say, just there for a moment because it helped me line up my circle in the right spot. I want the circle to be about, do you notice how I put it on the edges of these are inches, these squares. I want my circle to sort of be like that. Now I did use the Canvas workspace the first time I set this up, but I really like how I can just do this all on my machine. I'm not as exact on my machine as I am with Canvas workspace. Let's click away and see how that is. It's pretty good. In Canvas workspace, you can maybe set it up exactly the same distance from each side, but I'm thinking that looks pretty good to me. So what I have is a window for, I'm doing these goat cards, and the goat, one of my goats, which I also taught how to cut out with the Scan and Cut, is sticking out this window. And then it's like his head sticking out. So let's do this. So let's take, so we have this shape and this shape. We need to group these together. Okay, we need to select them before we group them. So you go into your editing mode, which is this one here. This is the shapes. And right now, only the circle is selected. And when I toggle, now the rectangle is selected. I want them both to be selected. So go here to the select, that's the 3 little squares. And I use the second one. The second option is select everything on the screen. I know there are only 2 things on the screen, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the second option to select everything on the screen. Now we're ready to group them. Don't weld them. We wanna just group them together. We want them to be one. We want this to be a hole in a rectangle. Okay, now I could manually duplicate this. So I need 4 of these because you can fit 4 on the 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. I could manually duplicate this and then lay them and move them around, but there's an easier way. Okay, and so let's do a couple things. Go into the wrench, and by the way, here I have a piece of petal pink. Okay, this is petal pink cardstock. Okay, and my light is off so you can see the screen better. So this isn't the real color of the cardstock. I'll turn on my light in a little while when I show you my cards. But this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. So let's do that first. Let's go into the settings, and inside, if you have the SDX model, your settings are, you don't have a button outside of your screen. Your settings are on your screen and they're over here. Let's just find the little wrench, and that's how you get to your settings. What I'm gonna do is change my cutting area. So I want this to, I'm gonna lay the cardstock out so that I have an 8.5 by 11. So we'll put about 11 inches that way. See how it says 10.98 now? Just about 11. It doesn't matter. You're just doing about 11. It can be a little more or less. And there's a reason for this. And things make sense in my tutorials when you get to the end. They don't always make sense until you get to the end sometimes. But trust me, the reason I'm doing this is because when I use the auto layout feature, where I'm going to be making 4 of these, I want them to be laid out in this fashion, in this horizontal fashion. And if I left my whole mat, if I left the cutting area open, it might do a different kind of layout. So we have about an 8.5 by 11. That's close enough. Okay, so you get that. I'm doing. This is my piece of cardstock. So so that's how you change your cutting area in the settings. Now I can make 4 of these. So we're going to go ahead and just click here. This is see how it's selected. This is a grouped object. It doesn't matter where I put it right now. And you see this button here, the one that looks like resize. Okay, it has like arrows going both ways. Click on that. And in there, you're going to click, you want 4 of these. Okay? So you want 4 total. So you already have 1, and so you want 4 total. So you have to put the total you want. So that's 4. See how they're on top of each other? Now I could manually move them all around, but we're going to let our Scan and Cut do it. See, we could do it. We could move them all around, but let's just do it and save as much space as we can by using what's called the auto layout. So to get to the auto layout, you have to be almost to the point where you're ready to cut. So you go into OK, and then it asks you. So see, now it asks you about the auto layout. It doesn't ask you. In fact, it's not a talking machine, but you know what I mean. Now, after I say OK, I get to this one with the little triangles going up and down. Auto layout has 3 options. The first option is the one I like to use. It says, I can tell the Scan and Cut, decide which way you need to move these, up, down, any which way. That's what this means. And do your best to lay them out on the screen as efficiently as possible. The second option means that you're going to only be able to turn them straight up and upside down. No other option. And this third option is the Scan and Cut's only going to be allowed to make them all going straight up. Well, I don't care which way they go. And in fact, they're all going to be straight up. But let's just select the first option. I always try to select the first option, which is lay them out precisely the way you need to. Scan and Cut, do your thing. So now it's giving me all 4 of my card bases, or card layers, I should say, and we're going to say click OK. And now it's going to be ready to cut. So we're going to click OK and we're going to cut. Now I can show you a couple things. Maybe I will turn on the light so you can see this color better. Maybe you can see that color better. See, that's a really pale pink, petal pink color. Okay, so this is, I have the Brother Scan and Cut. So in this kind of let's see, Scan and Cut, you can load the mat from either direction, which I really like. But if you're using an SDX, you can only load it from one direction. And I have not been able to make it to a craft store to buy what's called zig glue or two-way glue. I have videos on how to do that, how to restick your mat. So her mat, as you can see, kind of got some stuff stuck on it. So I am going to go ahead and do my painter's tape trick here, because I'm all about tips and tricks. So I'm going to show you what I would do when the mat's not very sticky and I haven't had a chance to restick it yet with two-way glue, where you can just, you can wash your mat with Dawn dishwashing liquid and warm water, and then you can restick it with two-way glue. So I will be doing that to her mats, but she gave me 2 mats. But for now, I didn't have a chance to do that. So I'm taking painter's tape, blue painter's tape, and I'm just putting it on a couple sides here, and then I can even rub while it's cutting. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that on the bottom too. See, and I could put it on the top too. I'm not scanning right now, I'm only cutting, so it actually does not hurt to put it on the top if your mat's not sticky, but if you were scanning, you never want to cover up these registration marks. And you certainly don't want to put a square around the outside of a piece of cardstock, because all it will do is recognize the square and it won't recognize your stamped images on the inside. But let's just say I'm going to put a lot of painter's tape on here because her mat is not very sticky, but it will be. After I restick it, it'll be like brand new. All right, so there we are. Turn off this light again. And I'm going to go ahead and load the mat using this button here. So I load the mat. I don't know what that clicking noise was. Probably something, I think my cord is stuck. All right, so now we're going to click on Cut. Now, when you have this Scan and Cut 2, you have to set the blade depth. And for Stampin' Up cardstock, I guess I do need my light after all, we need a blade depth of 5 for not Scan and Cut cardstock. They don't make cardstock, or maybe they do. But I'm using Stampin' Up cardstock. Stampin', not stamping. Oh, boy. Stampin' Up. Stampin' Up. Anyway, that's the cardstock I'm using. And the cardstock, it needs a blade depth of 5. But if you're using the STX models, of course, it's an auto blade. You don't even need to set the blade depth. So I'm using a blade depth of 5, and we're going to go ahead and say start. And then watch what I do. I don't know what that noise is, but it's making some funky noises. But I'm going to show you what I do. When things are cutting and when I'm not sure if the paper's going to slip, I want to show you something. Okay, this is just a habit I'm in, especially when I'm not sure if the paper's going to fall right off. See? And it's still, I just rub it a little like that, because the friction of my hand rubbing the paper keeps it from moving. Of course, the painter's tape also keeps it from moving. I'm just telling you the little things I've done along the way. If you get frustrated and you're like, I can't use my Scan and Cut, I can't cut with it, get in the habit of just doing that, and you can cut with it. Of course, don't get your hands caught up in there. But this sure beats. Now, as you can see, by the way, you might be noticing that this machine is very noisy. The Scan and Cut 2, right? It's very noisy. But that's okay, because we accomplished what I wanted to do. And so now you're going to take off. So this part, we're finished cutting. We say okay. Now I'm going to just keep my light on because I want to show you the examples. We're going to unload the mat with that button here, and a couple more things. So you did all this work. We'll get to that in a minute. This is what we're doing with those. We've done all this work. So at this point, another tip and trick is to save this. Save this to your machine. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So the way to save is to go back one screen. Go back, and you can see it says save. So now, and for example, I was making these, originally I was going to make these for swaps, but now I'm doing it different. I'm doing these just for customers and thank yous, and I'm just mass producing these because they're so cute, the goat cards. And I cut out loads of stamped images. In another tutorial I showed you how to make a mask and color them. But now I'm just in the process of assembling and finishing up these cards now. So if you need this, say 4 times, maybe I don't have time to cut this all today, or you need 20 of these, so you're gonna need this 5 times. You can save this. So you can save this little template. So click on save, and I don't have her password associated with her canvas yet, but we have the 3 choices here. You would have 4 choices. Yeah, you can save it to your machine, you can save it to your USB stick, you can save it directly to your computer, Canvas, using the USB cable, or you can set up Canvas Workspace and put in your personal, like I'm the papered chef, you could set up a personal connection with this machine. Okay, so those are your options for saving. I'm just gonna save it to the machine. It says it includes a group pattern on the mat. That's fine. So what? You can't ungroup it. Well, I don't want to ungroup it. I like it. I don't want to ungroup it. So we're gonna say save, and there it is. It's number 12, file number 12. So later on the next day, let's go back home, and you turn on your machine, and you're like, wow, I want to cut out some more of those windows, the circular window for our cards, or for your shaker cards or whatever. So you go into pattern, and you go to your saved data, and there you can find, this is finding it from the machine, USB stick, or computer, or your USB cable, and you just say, and here are the files. See, I see Mr. already saved some things. So here's the one. That's the file, or actually the next one, because I saved it earlier. But there's number 12. Okay, so I think hundreds of things are able to be saved on here, which is great. So you can use them over and over. All right, so that's it for that. So let's show you the examples, the visual examples, and how to get this off the mat and some other things. So if you have, so you have these, and you're going to take your painter's tape off, and that's what's nice about painter's tape is it shouldn't. Oh, as I say, it shouldn't have ripped anything. That one did a little bit. This one, yeah, it shouldn't get stuck on anything. And see how that came right off. Save these because you can use these to stamp later. Save your circles, and here's what you have now. So here they are, and the painter's tape should come right off. Yeah, it's coming right off. It's pretty good. You could use washi tape too, but the problem with washi tape is washi tape gets stuck up in your machine. And it don't matter if these got a little stuck on the bottom here, because I embossed these as well. So it doesn't really matter. So let me show you. So I would take these and I'd emboss them, get rid of the painter's tape, and then I put my goats right through the window. And everything is done ahead of time. In other words, I cut out all these pieces, cut out all my goats. I have a mask for coloring my goats. And here are what these samples, and I'll just open those up. So I want to explain what I used for it real quick first, and let me focus that, and then I'll show you these examples of how this works. So what I used for these cards, petal pink is one of the coordinating colors in this. I think I have to turn my camera, folks. Let's see. There we go. In this suite called In Good Taste, there's this paper, which is fantastic. You get 24 sheets, double-sided, and it's called In Good Taste Designer Series paper. Well, petal pink's one of the colors, so that's why I came up with, petal pink would look good with the goats and look good with the wood. It's kind of rustic, so that's where I came up with that idea. So then the die that I put, Happy Birthday You Old Goat, the die itself is this die. It's in this part of the suite. It's called Tasteful Touches. Let's see. I forget what the name of that die is. Is it right here? Here it is. Tasteful Touches bundle. Tasteful Touches stamp set. Tasteful Labels. That's what it's called. You can't barely see that. Let me zoom in there. Tasteful Labels dies. Okay, so I could have made my circles with the Scan and Cut as well, but not this really cool little, I don't know if you can see this stitch shape. Okay, so that's how I did that. So let me show you what I used the Scan and Cut for and what I used the window, how I did the window. So this card here, and then of course the stamp set is Way to Goat. Here's Way to Goat. Okay, so I've already shown you how to do this. You have already seen how to cut out the goats, how to layer the goats, how to color the goats, how to sponge color the goats. Everything, I've shown you Way to Goat on my channel already. So you should already be familiar with how to do this card now, except for the window part. The window part I just showed you. So here we go. So we have this piece of, this is how I did it, piece of gray granite. Gray granite is like one of our colors, which coordinates with this paper here. It's one of the colors, gray granite. And then what I did is I used the petal pink, and then in the what's it called? World of Good. Sorry, there's a World of Good Old World 3D embossing folder. So I took all these pieces and I embossed all the pieces, okay, with the old World paper. It's called Old World paper. There'll be a link to all of my materials. Old World paper 3D embossing folder. Okay, I'm just going to make this light a little better so you can really see that embossing. Okay, so then I did my sponge coloring with my little goats, which I showed you already how to sponge color in my other video, which I'll link to in the description. And then I used my, what are those called? The blends a little bit. And I had the goat sticking out the window. And the reason I wanted a goat sticking out the window is because I thought putting them on the card was a little too busy putting the whole goat. So now I didn't have to sponge color the whole goat. I didn't have to sponge color his legs. I just stuck him on the window with some glue. And he's sticking out the window. Of course, you can make them pop out of the window as well. But picture this for 3Ds. I mean, not 3Ds, for shaker cards as well. So here's what I'm doing with, like I said, I'm working with the World of Good suite now. And I'm working with this card. And you could put some shaker. I'm going to have probably a turtle swimming out of there. You know, something swimming out of the hole. But you could just, the possibilities are endless. And I have another embossing folder to use that goes with a different suite. So that's that. And I think I did put something on the inside. No, I just put the little cans on the inside with a piece of Whisper White. I made it blank inside. So happy birthday, you old goat. And these are just to show you, because I made several, that you can take the same paper and see how you can take and layer these pieces with the same paper, and it looks a little different with the wood textures and everything on the bottom. Okay, and I colored these in gray granite and smoky slate. That's what I used to color the goats with. And they crack me up, and they're kind of like my new This Little Piggy. They're not my favorite. This Little Piggy's still my favorite, but they're the one, this is going to be my go-to whimsical stamp set for this year's catalog, because I just think there's so much fun we can have with this Way to Goat stamp set. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a window for your card. I hope your wheels are spinning about all the different ways you can apply this technique to your own crafting projects with using your supplies that you already have. Thank you for watching. This is The Papered Chef.